My name is Junior, and I'm 32 years old. It feels like I've lived 2 lifetimes already, both riddled with a sibling rivalry that could chip away at solid rock. Nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the bizarre spectacle that unfolded in Mr. Henderson's somber office that Tuesday. The air hung thick with old paper and stale coffee, a fitting backdrop for Dad's last will and testament. My father, who built an empire from scratch with calloused hands and relentless spirit, was gone. In his absence, the vultures circled, none more keenly than my older sister Sarah. She sat across from me, a mask of grief that didn't quite reach her eyes. Those eyes, sharp and calculating, flicked towards the leather-bound document Mr. Henderson held with almost reverent care. Sarah had always been Dad's favorite, the golden child, destined for greatness. I, on the other hand, was the dreamer, the artist, the less practical one. She always got the praise, the opportunities, the biggest slice. When Mr. Henderson cleared his throat, his voice a dry rustle in the quiet room, beginning to read, I braced myself for the familiar sting of disappointment. He started with pleasantries, charitable donations, smaller bequests. Then he reached the main beneficiaries, the moment we'd all been waiting for. His gaze scanned the document, then lifted, meeting my eyes for a fleeting second. "To my beloved son, Junior?" A sharp, almost imperceptible snort escaped Sarah's lips across the table, quickly muffled by a theatrical cough. Her eyes, though, were fixed on mine, glinting with a familiar triumphant condescension. It wasn't a loud laugh, but a silent scoff, a puff of air filled with derision that clearly said, "There he is, the afterthought, about to get his customary pittance." My stomach clenched, accustomed to this ritual humiliation. I could feel the weight of her expectation, the smug certainty that whatever came next for me would be insignificant. My jaw tightened, preparing for the usual scraps thrown my way while she received the lion's share. She settled back, a faint victorious smirk playing on her lips, utterly convinced of her impending coronation. The room vibrated with her silent glee. Mr. Henderson, oblivious to her silent taunt, simply continued, his voice calm and unhurried as he read the next line, the words that would wipe that smirk clean off her face, instantly and utterly. "And to my daughter Sarah, she receives the family estate, including the main house in Aspen, and full ownership of Sterling Holdings, the company." The lawyer's words hung in the air, a bell tolling my defeat. Sarah's triumphant smirk, which had been lurking, now blossomed fully, almost imperceptibly. A faint, knowing nod. She had won. Again. My father's will was exactly as I had always feared, an affirmation of her superiority, a testament to my perceived shortcomings. A dull ache settled in my chest, a familiar companion from a lifetime of being second best. I swallowed hard, the taste of ashes in my mouth, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I kept my gaze fixed on the mahogany desk, not daring to meet her eyes, knowing full well the gleam of victory I would find there. However, Mr. Henderson's voice cut through the heavy silence, a surprising ripple in the calm surface of my despair. My head snapped up, a faint flicker of a long-extinguished hope igniting. Sarah, too, seemed to pause, her almost smirk freezing in place, a tiny frown creasing her brow. He adjusted his spectacles, his gaze now firmly fixed on me. My father, William Sterling, was a man of profound foresight and even deeper affection. He understood the nuanced strengths of both his children. My breath hitched. This was unexpected. The lawyer's next words would either be a final, polite dismissal, or something else entirely. "To my beloved son, Junior," he continued, his voice gaining a new warmth, a surprising tenderness, "I bequeath not just a share, but the entirety of my personal art collection, amassed over 50 years, currently valued at over $200 million. This collection, Junior, is your legacy, your future. Furthermore, I entrust you with the controlling shares of Sterling Innovations, the company I founded in secret, years before Sterling Holdings, focused entirely on renewable energy and sustainable technologies. It's a company I always believed you, with your unconventional vision, were uniquely suited to lead and expand. The room went silent, so quiet I could hear the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above. Sarah's carefully constructed composure shattered. Her jaw dropped, her eyes wide, staring at Mr. Henderson as if he had just started speaking in tongues. The air around her vibrated with disbelief. "What?" she finally gasped, her voice shrill, tearing through the quiet like a rusted saw. "What did you just say, Mr. Henderson? Sterling Innovations? He founded another company, and Junior gets it, the art collection. That's impossible." Her face, moments ago smug, was now a portrait of utter, furious shock. I sat there, frozen, the words swirling around me, each one a hammer blow to my understanding of reality. Sterling Innovations, a secret company, renewable energy, and $200 million in art? This wasn't a pittance. This was an empire, parallel to hers, but tailor-made for me. My hands trembled, resting on my knees. I looked at Sarah, her face contorted in a mask of fury and betrayal, the smugness completely gone, replaced by an ugly red flush. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken accusations and the echoes of a life I never knew my father lived. "Impossible? Sarah, your father was a genius," Mr. Henderson stated calmly, adjusting his tie. "He meticulously planned this for years. Sterling Innovations was his passion project, the one he knew required a different kind of leadership, a different kind of heart. He saw that in Junior. The art collection, too, was always intended for the one who truly appreciated its soul, not just its market value." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "He stipulated that Sterling Holdings and Sterling Innovations would operate independently, but with a shared commitment to the family name. There's a clause, of course, regarding future collaboration, should both parties agree." Sarah slammed her fist on the table, a sharp crack that made me jump. "Collaboration? He gave him a company, a secret company, and a fortune in art, and all I get is the established one that already runs itself?" Her voice was climbing, hysteria creeping in. "This is a joke, a cruel, twisted joke. He always told me I was the only one capable of handling the business, the only one he trusted." Her eyes darted to me, blazing with pure, unadulterated venom. "Did you know about this, Junior? Is this some trick you pulled? Did you manipulate him?" My own voice felt thick, distant. "Sarah, I had no idea," I stammered, genuinely overwhelmed. "I'm as shocked as you are. More, maybe." A wave of dizziness washed over me. All those years of feeling overlooked, of being the other child, the less than, suddenly evaporated, replaced by this colossal, unexpected burden of legacy. I felt a strange mix of exhilaration and terror, a realization that my life, which I had just written off as perpetual second place, had just been irrevocably altered. My father, the stoic, distant man, had seen something in me I never knew he did. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat, his expression firm. "The will is clear, Sarah. It was drafted over several years, with multiple revisions, all signed and witnessed. There is no ambiguity. Your father's wishes are explicit." He gestured towards a thick folder on his desk. "I have all the documentation to prove the existence and full transfer of Sterling Innovations, along with the detailed inventory and provenance of the art collection. It's all legally sound." Sarah stood abruptly, chair scraping loudly against the floor. Her face was pale, a stark contrast to the angry flush that had been there moments ago. "I refuse to believe this," she whispered, her voice dangerously low. "There has to be a mistake. A manipulation. I will contest this, Mr. Henderson. I will fight this with every fiber of my being. He wouldn't do this to me, not after everything." Her gaze lingered on me, sharp and cold, a silent promise of war. Her words, sharp as shards of glass, echoed in the sudden silence. "He wouldn't do this to me. Not after everything." Sarah's eyes, usually calculating, were now raw with a wounded pride that twisted her features into something ugly. She didn't wait for a reply, just spun on her heel, her designer heels clicking angrily on the polished floor. The door to Mr. Henderson's office slammed shut behind her, a violent exclamation mark at the end of a devastating sentence. The reverberation rattled a small framed photograph on Mr. Henderson's desk, an old sepia-toned image of what looked like his law firm from decades ago. I flinched, still absorbing the shock of her fury. A profound quiet descended, punctuated only by the distant hum of city traffic and the rapid beat of my own heart. I stared at the closed door, half expecting her to burst back in, to retract her words, to demand a recount. But the silence held, heavy and oppressive. Mr. Henderson, ever the picture of professional calm, merely adjusted his spectacles, his gaze sympathetic but resolute. He picked up a pen, meticulously aligning it with a notepad. "She's upset, Junior." "That's understandable." His voice was a gentle counterpoint to Sarah's recent outburst. "Upset?" I managed, my voice a croak. She looked like she wanted to set the building on fire. A nervous laugh escaped me, sounding hollow in the vastness of the revelation. I mean, how could I have known? All these years, she was the one, the clear successor, the golden child. I was just me. The one who liked to draw and spend time in the workshop, not the boardroom. My mind raced, trying to reconcile the image of my distant, business-focused father with this secret benefactor, this visionary who saw something in me. It felt like a dream, one I was terrified of waking from. Mr. Henderson leaned forward, resting his forearms on the desk. "Your father had a deep respect for your unconventional path, Junior. More than you know, perhaps. He often spoke of your artist's eye and engineer's mind. He believed true innovation stemmed from curiosity, not just calculation." He pushed the thick folder across the desk towards me. "This contains everything. The legal documents for Sterling Innovations, detailed accounts, the full inventory of the art collection, and a personal letter from your father. He wanted you to read that last." My fingers trembled as I reached for the folder. The leather cover felt cool and smooth beneath my touch. It represented not just wealth, but a seismic shift in my entire understanding of my life and my relationship with my father. For so long, I had carried the quiet burden of feeling like a disappointment, a second choice. Now, it was as if a hidden door had swung open, revealing a secret chamber filled with treasures and, more importantly, a connection I never knew existed. The weight of it was immense, a mixture of validation and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. "A personal letter?" I murmured, the words barely audible. I pictured Dad, stoic and reserved, meticulously writing a letter just for me. The idea felt foreign, yet strangely comforting. I hesitated, not yet ready to face whatever profound message it contained. The shock of the inheritance, Sarah's venom, and the sheer scale of the change were already almost too much to process. My focus drifted to the immediate future. What happens now, Mr. Henderson?" She said she'd contest it. "Can she?" He nodded slowly, a grave expression settling on his face. "She can, and she likely will. However, as I explained, your father took every conceivable precaution to ensure the will's integrity. Multiple witnesses, psychological evaluations to confirm his sound mind during drafting, extensive documentation. It would be a lengthy, expensive, and ultimately, I believe, futile legal battle for her." He paused, his gaze thoughtful. "But it will be a battle nonetheless. Sarah is not one to concede easily, especially when her pride is wounded. The thought of a protracted legal fight filled me with dread. I just wanted to process this, to understand what my father had done, and why. Sarah's anger wasn't just about money or power. It was about her entire identity, her self-worth, being shaken to its core. And I, unknowingly, was the instrument of that upheaval. The knowledge settled in my gut, a cold, heavy stone. My life was about to become infinitely more complicated. The dread of a legal battle with Sarah tightened in my stomach. It wasn't just about assets. It was about public humiliation, another chapter in a rivalry I'd always tried to avoid. The folder felt heavy in my hands, a testament to my father's secret foresight. It carried the weight of an irrevocably changed future. My fingers traced its smooth leather, almost feeling Dad's phantom touch. Mr. Henderson, seeing my turmoil, offered a small, understanding smile. It's a lot to take in, Junior. Your father knew you'd be overwhelmed. He was private, but deeply insightful. He spent years cultivating Sterling Innovations, his true legacy, unburdened by traditional corporate structure. That last phrase resonated deeply. It sounded exactly like something I'd gravitate towards, something Dad must have recognized in me. I'd always pursued my own small projects, hidden sketches, and prototypes, purely for creation's joy. Now, a giant extension of that impulse was handed to me. The irony was palpable. All those years, I'd felt shame for not fitting Sarah's mold, for not being the businessman. My father, all along, had been building a mold specifically for me. So, Sterling Innovations, it's been operating this whole time? I asked, my voice still hoarse. And Dad kept it completely separate from Sterling Holdings? My mind struggled to grasp such secrecy, running a multi-million-dollar company under the radar. It painted a father entirely different from the stern figure I remembered. A man with a hidden life, a secret passion, one he deemed perfect for his less practical son. Mr. Henderson nodded slowly. Yes, entirely separate. Different boards, investments, headquarters. For years only a very small, trusted circle knew. He wanted it to grow organically, away from scrutiny and pressures. He believed its potential lay in freedom to innovate without compromise. He built a brilliant team, Junior, who share his vision. They've been waiting for this moment, for you. The weight of this new reality slowly sank in. I was no longer just Junior, the artist. I was the unexpected heir, reluctant leader of a secret empire. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. My perception of my father and myself was undergoing a complete rewrite. The distance I'd felt from him dissolved, replaced by a profound, bewildering connection. He hadn't dismissed me, he had seen me. He had chosen me. I looked at the folder again, my gaze lingering on its thickness. Inside lay not just the fate of a company, but the key to understanding a man I thought I knew. The personal letter, to be read last, a final intimate communication. What are the immediate next steps, Mr. Henderson? I finally asked, my voice gaining a touch of resolve. The emotions were swirling, but a practical corner of my mind was awakening, demanding action. He picked up a smaller notepad. First, we'll schedule a meeting with the board of Sterling Innovations. They are fully aware of the succession plan. Then, we begin transferring assets and establishing your legal authority. It will be a busy few weeks, Junior. Your father meticulously documented everything, including a detailed transition plan. His calm professionalism was a grounding force. The silence now felt less oppressive, more pregnant with possibility, even as the shadow of Sarah's impending legal challenge loomed. The immediate tasks Mr. Henderson laid out felt like a cascade, each one demanding more of me than I felt capable of giving. My father, who always seemed a silhouette against the harsh glare of ambition, had meticulously orchestrated this intricate dance of succession, years in the making. Sterling Innovations, a company born from his vision, nurtured in secret, now rested squarely on my shoulders. It was a weight, yes, but also a beacon. I imagined him, hunched over blueprints, sketching out clean energy solutions, not the ruthless corporate maneuvers Sarah always glorified. The idea that he saw me, truly saw my unconventional mind, felt like a belated, powerful embrace. I picked up the thick folder from the desk, my fingers tracing the embossed title. Sterling Innovations, Project Phoenix. Phoenix, a name that now seemed profoundly fitting, not just for the company, but for my own life, rising from the ashes of Sarah's dismissals. The sheer volume of documents was daunting, a testament to Dad's relentless work. It wasn't just a company, it was a testament to a hidden side of him, a passion he kept guarded from the world, and most remarkably, from Sarah. That thought, the deliberate exclusion of her from this, was a bitter pill she'd find hard to swallow. Project Phoenix was your father's code name for it in its nascent stages, Mr. Henderson explained, watching me intently. He poured his heart into it, and he had absolute faith in your ability to lead it into the future. He often said you had a sensitivity to unseen currents, a phrase I admit I didn't fully grasp until now. A sensitivity to unseen currents. That resonated with me. I'd always felt things, perceived nuances others missed, whether in a piece of art or the silent spaces between people. Perhaps Dad had recognized that intuition is something more than just a creative quirk. The silence that followed was different from Sarah's furious exit. This was a contemplative quiet, filled with the hum of revelation. I clutched the folder, the leather warm now from my hands. It wasn't just about inheriting wealth. It was about inheriting a purpose, a hidden legacy that seemed to align so perfectly with the quiet parts of my soul I thought were inconsequential. "You mentioned a personal letter," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper, my gaze fixed on the folder. Where is it?" "Mr. Henderson pointed to a smaller sealed envelope tucked inside the front flap of the main folder. "He requested you read it when you were alone. Said it contained insights into his vision for Sterling Innovations, and for you. It's a message from his heart, Junior, not just his will." The way he said it with a gentle solemnity made me realize its profound importance. It wasn't a business memo. It was a final communication, a bridge between the distant father I knew and the visionary who had just reshaped my world. The thought of reading his words, unvarnished and personal, sent a shiver down my spine. It felt like an intrusion into his inner world, and mine. What would he say? Would it be an apology for his distance? A final piece of advice? Or simply a reiteration of the overwhelming responsibility I now carried? The weight of anticipation was almost as heavy as the folder itself. I knew I needed to be ready, mentally and emotionally, before I broke that seal. "And Sarah?" I asked, my voice still hesitant. "You think she'll genuinely pursue legal action, despite everything?" It was hard to imagine her backing down, not when her pride was so utterly shredded. Her ambition was a consuming fire, and I was now the unforeseen obstacle in her path. Mr. Henderson sighed, a rare display of weariness. "She has a strong will, Junior, and considerable resources. And yes, she believes she's been wronged. She sees this as a betrayal, not just by her father, but by you, whether you're innocent or not. She will exhaust every avenue, I assure you. It won't be pleasant, but it will be a fight that your father anticipated and prepared for extensively." His words confirmed my deepest fears. The quiet, artistic life I'd always gravitated towards was about to be obliterated by a storm of legal battles and family animosity. A chill settled over me, despite the warmth of the folder in my hands. Sarah's fury was a palpable thing, and I knew she wouldn't stop until she felt she had reclaimed what she considered rightfully hers. My father's hidden foresight was a gift, but it also carried the heavy burden of a war I never asked for. I looked around the quiet, stately office, a sudden urge to escape pressing down on me. The air, once just smelling of old paper, now seemed to carry the faint metallic scent of impending conflict. The silence stretched, now imbued with a different kind of tension, not just Sarah's recent fury, but the cold, hard reality of the fight to come. My father had truly anticipated everything, even her predictable rage. I traced the embossed lettering on the folder again, Project Phoenix, a name that now felt less like a secret code name and more like a prophecy. It meant rebirth, yes, but also implied an intense burning, a destructive force before the rise. That burning, I realized, would be Sarah's unwavering fury. My gaze drifted to Mr. Henderson, who was now meticulously stacking some files, his movements precise and unhurried. He was a rock of calm professionalism in a storm that had just capsized my entire world. How much will this fight consume?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, afraid of the answer. The thought of my life being ripped apart by legal wrangling, splashed across headlines, drained me before it even began. I craved my quiet studio, the smell of turpentine, the solitude of creation. This was the antithesis of everything I was. "It will require your attention, Junior," he responded without looking up. His words were always measured, factual, devoid of melodrama. "Sarah will attempt to discredit the will's validity. She'll challenge your father's mental state, question the timing of Sterling Innovations' creation, perhaps even allege undue influence. Standard procedure for contesting a will of this magnitude, especially one with such unexpected beneficiaries. He finally met my gaze, a flicker of genuine concern in his eyes. A bitter laugh escaped me, hollow and dry. Undue influence? Mr. Henderson, I literally just learned this company existed an hour ago. My father was a man of steel and secrets. You really think anyone could unduly influence him, let alone me? The absurdity of the accusation stung, highlighting how little Sarah understood about our father or me. She always saw the world through a lens of manipulation and strategy. That is what she will claim, he affirmed patiently. It's a common tactic. Your innocence in this matter will be irrelevant to her narrative. The burden of proof, however, will be on her. And your father, as I mentioned, made extraordinary efforts to protect this will from any such challenges. He gestured to the overflowing folder. All of it is documented here. Every step, every signed affidavit, every legal loophole closed. The weight of the folder in my hand suddenly felt unbearable, not just the physical weight, but the ethical and emotional one. This wasn't just my inheritance. It was the weapon in a war I didn't want to fight. A shield against a sister I once, long ago, admired. The irony of it all was a sharp pang in my chest. For years I had quietly existed in her shadow, content with my chosen path, only for my father to thrust me into the spotlight she always craved, at her expense. He didn't tell her. I mused aloud, the words barely audible. He kept this entire part of his life, this other company, this fortune, completely secret from her, from all of us. It felt like a betrayal on a grand scale, a deliberate slight against the daughter who had dedicated her life to pleasing him, following his corporate footsteps. But then, it dawned on me. Perhaps he knew Sarah wouldn't accept this vision, this phoenix that represented something beyond profit margins. He believed it was for the best, Mr. Nani. Henderson interjected, almost as if reading my thoughts. Your father was a master strategist, in business and in life. He understood the dynamics between his children. He saw Sarah's drive, her ambition for Sterling Holdings. But he also saw your unique capacity for the future he envisioned for Sterling Innovations. His words brought a strange comfort, a confirmation that my father's actions weren't arbitrary. I considered the personal letter again, tucked away inside the folder. It contained insights into his vision for Sterling Innovations, and for you. Now, more than ever, I felt an urgent need to read it, to understand, to hear his voice, even if only on paper, explaining this unfathomable leap of faith he had taken in me. This wasn't just about money or power. It was about finally understanding my father, and perhaps myself. My hand tightened on the folder. I need some time to process all of this, Mr. Henderson, I said, my voice firmer now. And to read this letter. I felt a tremor of anticipation, mingled with a lingering sense of apprehension. The storm was coming, but I needed to find my footing first. My life as I knew it was over. The phoenix was already beginning its fiery ascent. The cool leather of the folder pressed against my side as I stepped out of Mr. Henderson's office. The bustling city suddenly loud, almost aggressive. I needed air, space, a place where the echoes of Sarah's fury and my father's secret legacy could truly settle. My studio, with its familiar scent of linseed oil and turpentine, was the only sanctuary I could think of. The drive felt like a blur, my mind still reeling, processing the tectonic shift that had just occurred in my world. Arriving home, the quiet hum of my studio embraced me like an old friend. Canvas leaned against walls, half-finished sculptures caught the afternoon light, each piece a tangible expression of my soul. I laid the thick folder on my drawing table, pushing aside charcoals and sketches. The phrase Project Phoenix seemed to shimmer on its cover, promising a rebirth I hadn't asked for, hinting at a fire I now had to face. My fingers, still slightly numb, fumbled with the clasp of the folder. Inside, nestled beneath reams of legal documents and financial reports, was the smaller, sealed envelope Mr. Henderson had pointed to. The personal letter. I peeled back the seal, my heart thrumming with a strange mix of dread and longing. The paper felt thick and aged, carrying a faint nostalgic scent of my father's study, old books and pipe tobacco. I unfolded the single sheet, his familiar, meticulous handwriting filling the page. The words blurred for a moment, then sharpened. "My dearest son, Junior," it began, "if you are reading this, it means you have faced the truth of what I have entrusted to you. I know this will come as a shock, perhaps even a burden. Forgive me for the secrecy, but certain seeds must be nurtured in the dark to truly blossom." A profound sense of his presence, quiet and strong, filled the room. "Sterling Innovations," he continued, "is not merely a business venture. It is the culmination of my life's true passion, a vision for a cleaner, more sustainable future. I knew, with absolute certainty, that you, with your unconventional mind and unwavering curiosity, were the only one capable of truly understanding and leading it. Your sister Sarah possesses a formidable ambition, a drive I channeled towards Sterling Holdings, where her strengths would shine. But Phoenix was always meant for your hands, Junior. It demands a different kind of sight, an artist's eye for what could be, rather than what is." Just as his quiet confidence began to soothe the turbulence within me, my phone vibrated, an insistent buzz against the wood of the table. I reluctantly tore my gaze from the letter, the fragile thread connecting me to my father abruptly severed. It was Mr. Henderson. I braced myself, knowing instinctively what the call was about. "Junior, I hope I'm not interrupting." His voice, always calm, carried a hint of urgency now. "I regret to inform you that Sarah's legal team has officially filed a petition to contest the will. As anticipated, they're alleging undue influence and questioning your father's mental competency during the drafting of the final codicils concerning Sterling Innovations and the art collection." A bitter laugh escaped me, sounding raw and disbelieving. "Undue influence? Mr. Henderson, she thinks I schemed my way into this. She still doesn't get it, does she? Dad wasn't a man who could be swayed, especially not by me, the dreamer she always dismissed." The words tasted like ash. My father's letter, lying open beside me, felt like a stark rebuttal to her claims, a testament to his clear, deliberate intent. "Her narrative is irrelevant to the legal facts, Junior," he replied, his tone firm. "But this will be a public and protracted affair. The initial filings will likely be picked up by the press by tomorrow morning. Your father, however, anticipated every possible challenge. We have a robust defense. We simply need to prepare for the inevitable media storm and Sarah's relentless pursuit." I pinched the bridge of my nose, a dull ache settling behind my eyes. A media storm? Just when I was finally starting to understand. I just wanted to read his letter, Mr. Henderson, not fight a war. My voice was laced with a weariness that went bone deep. The quiet world I cherished, the one where art and innovation blossomed in solitude, was about to be shattered by the harsh glare of public scrutiny and familial spite. The receiver felt cold against my ear. Mr. Henderson's voice was a steady anchor in the swirling chaos. "I know, Junior. It's an immense burden. But remember, your father chose you for this very reason. He knew your strength wasn't in aggression, but in resilience and vision. We will walk through this, step by step. For now, try to finish that letter. It might offer you some peace before the storm breaks fully." His words, echoing my father's, provided a fleeting comfort. I looked down at the letter, then at the phone in my hand. Two starkly different realities poised to collide. The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering onto the drawing table beside the open letter. The echo of Mr. Henderson's words, public and protracted affair, media storm, reverberated in the quiet of my studio, drowning out the gentle hum of the city outside. My quiet world, this sanctuary of canvas and clay, was about to be invaded, dissected, and probably ridiculed. Sarah's accusations, no matter how baseless, would become tomorrow's headlines. A wave of nausea washed over me, cold and relentless. I picked up the receiver, placing it back on its cradle with shaking hands. The smell of old paper from Dad's letter mingled with the fresh scent of turpentine, a jarring contrast of past and present, peace and impending war. How could I possibly navigate this? I was an artist, a creator, someone who preferred the silent language of form and color over the brutal shouting match of a courtroom or the intrusive glare of cameras. Every instinct screamed for me to retreat, to hide, to simply disappear. My gaze fell back on the half-read letter, its words a beacon in the brewing chaos. Certain seeds must be nurtured in the dark to truly blossom. Dad's voice, clear and resonant, seemed to echo from the page. He knew. He knew the privacy I craved, the subtle way my mind worked. He knew the spotlight would be agonizing for me, yet he had still chosen this path. There had to be more to it, a deeper reason for the public burden now thrust upon me. I picked up the letter again, my fingers trembling slightly as I continued to read, my eyes devouring each meticulously formed word. Sarah's ambition, while formidable, is also a narrow lens. She sees only what is, the tangible assets, the established empires. Sterling Holdings is a fortress built on tradition. But Sterling Innovations, my phoenix, requires a different kind of architect. It needs someone who sees not just profits, but possibilities. Not just resources, but responsibilities. A profound warmth spread through my chest, an unexpected validation. He saw me, truly saw me, beyond the superficial labels Sarah had always attached. I have observed your quiet dedication, Junior, your endless hours lost in creation, your refusal to compromise on authenticity. These are the very qualities that Sterling Innovations demands. It is a company built on vision, on unconventional thinking, on a deep respect for the planet and its future. It is not for the faint of heart, nor for those who only chase the quickest returns. It is for you, my son, and for the future I believe you are uniquely positioned to shape. His words were not just an inheritance. They were a profound act of faith, a final, intimate conversation I had yearned for my entire life. A tear, warm and unexpected, tracked a path down my cheek, blurring the final sentences. Do not be swayed by the noise, Junior. Do not let external expectations diminish your internal truth. The storm will pass. Stand firm in your purpose. Your mother would have understood this. Always remember who you are and what you are capable of. He had mentioned Mom. My quiet, artistic mother, who had always encouraged my dreams, who had understood my silent world. She was the one common ground he and I truly shared. The last sentence was a simple yet monumental instruction. I believe in you. The words were stark, direct, and utterly overwhelming. All those years of feeling inadequate, of measuring myself against Sarah's relentless drive, of believing I was perpetually second best, crumbled under the weight of that single, powerful statement. My father, the stoic, distant man, had seen me, chosen me, and fundamentally believed in my unconventional path. Just as the quiet strength from his letter began to settle within me, a shrill notification blared from my tablet. A news alert. My stomach dropped. I looked at the screen, and there it was, splashed across a major financial news outlet. Sterling Air contests father's will. Shocking disinheritance claims against brother. Sarah hadn't wasted a second. The storm had officially arrived. My hands clenched, but this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from a nascent, simmering resolve. The fury was still there, a hot coil in my gut, but it was no longer aimed solely at Sarah. It was aimed at the disruption, at the injustice, at the sheer audacity of her attempts to invalidate my father's meticulously planned legacy. My eyes swept over the letter again, particularly his final affirmation. I took a deep breath, the scent of turpentine now a reminder of my own grounding, my own truth. The quiet, artistic life I cherished was indeed shattered, but perhaps, like his phoenix, it wasn't to be destroyed, but transformed. I had a purpose, a hidden company built on a vision I truly believed in, and a father's unwavering faith. The battle would be brutal, public, and exhausting, but I wouldn't be fighting it alone. Not really. I had his words, his foresight, and the truth on my side. The phone began to ring again, a persistent, insistent demand. I looked at the screen. It was Mr. Henderson. I answered. My voice, surprisingly, was steady. The conversation with Mr. Henderson was brief, yet pivotal. My voice indeed held steady, a quiet anchor in the rising tide of chaos. He outlined the immediate steps, preparing legal briefs, scheduling press statements, and arranging meetings with Sterling Innovation's existing board. It was a whirlwind of logistics, far removed from the tactile world of my art. Yet I listened, absorbing every detail with an unfamiliar clarity. My father's letter lay beside me, a silent witness to this unexpected transformation within myself. His words, "I believe in you," resonated deeper than any legal strategy. They were a foundation, bedrock beneath the shifting sands of Sarah's accusations. She might scream about undue influence, might attempt to paint me as a cunning manipulator, but I knew the truth. My father had seen past the public narrative, past the superficial labels, and into the quiet, creative core of who I was. He hadn't chosen me, despite my unconventional nature, but because of it. This profound realization stripped away decades of self-doubt, of feeling like a perpetual runner-up in Sarah's relentless race for Dad's approval. The scent of turpentine, still lingering faintly in the air, grounded me. It was the smell of my sanctuary, the space where I'd always felt most authentically myself. Now that authenticity was being called upon in a way I never imagined. Sterling Innovations, Project Phoenix, wasn't just a company. It was an extension of my father's deepest beliefs, a testament to innovation born from conscience, not just commerce. And he had entrusted it to me. The weight of that trust was immense, yet strangely exhilarating. I pictured Sarah, her face contorted in the news photo splashed across my tablet. Her fury was a predictable force, like a storm front moving in. She saw betrayal where Dad saw foresight, theft where he saw legacy. Her world, built on rigid corporate structures and overt power, couldn't comprehend a hidden passion, a secret vision cultivated for a son who walked a different path. She couldn't understand that some inheritances are not about what's visible, but what's intrinsic. The quiet hum of my laptop brought me back. Emails were already pouring in. Mr. Henderson's follow-up, requests for comments from various media outlets, even a tentative message from someone claiming to be a Sterling Innovations board member, expressing anticipation for our first meeting. The world outside my studio was already reacting, churning with the very storm I dreaded. Yet the dread felt different, not paralyzing, but invigorating. My father's letter lay open. I reread the part about my mother. Your mother would have understood this. A faint, tender smile touched my lips. Mom, with her quiet strength and unwavering belief in following one's own truth, would have indeed understood. She was the artist in our family, the one who saw beauty in unconventional forms, who taught me to look beyond the obvious. Dad, in this final act, had truly connected with me through her, a bridge built between two worlds I thought were forever separate. This battle with Sarah, then, wasn't just about a will. It was about defining legacies, about two vastly different visions for the future, two interpretations of our father's true character. Her fight was for validation of her chosen path, mine, for the honor of a hidden truth. And while I had never sought conflict, never coveted the spotlight, I now realized some fights choose you. My father had foreseen this, prepared for it, and given me the tools to stand firm. The studio, moments ago a quiet haven, now felt like a command center. My canvases, once passive observers, seemed to hum with a new energy, reflecting the quiet determination hardening within me. The scent of linseed oil was no longer just the smell of art. It was the smell of purpose, of a new beginning born from the ashes of old expectations. The world might see a family drama, but I saw a sacred trust. I closed the folder, the personal letter now tucked safely inside, its words etched into my heart. The storm raged outside, but a profound calm had settled within. I was ready. The line went dead, yet Mr. Henderson's steady voice seemed to linger, a quiet assurance against the coming deluge. My grip on the folder, now closed and holding the letter safe, tightened. The scent of turpentine and oil paints, usually a source of calm, now hummed with a different energy, a prelude to transformation. It wasn't just a studio anymore. It was the crucible where a new self was being forged. I walked to the large window, looking out at the city lights beginning to prick the twilight sky, each one a tiny ambition, a distant dream. The irony of it all was a sharp, poignant ache in my chest. For years I'd been the one on the periphery, content in my quiet corner, while Sarah blazed a trail in the corporate world, basking in Dad's overt approval. Now, his most profound, most personal legacy was mine, thrust upon me with a public fanfare I instinctively recoiled from. But the letter, that final, intimate conversation, had changed everything. It wasn't about power or wealth, not really. It was about connection, about seeing, about a quiet faith that transcended the boardroom. My father, William Sterling, wasn't just the stoic businessman I knew. He was a visionary, a secret artist in his own right, painting a future with renewable energy, not just profits. He had chosen me not because I was a carbon copy of him, but precisely because I wasn't. Because I saw the world with different eyes, the artist's eye for what could be. That revelation was the true inheritance, far more valuable than any company or art collection. It was a validation that reverberated through my entire being, settling the decades-long question of my place. Sarah's impending legal battle, the media circus, the public dissection of our family's private grief, it would all be deafening. But I realized, with a surprising clarity, that her fight was born from a fundamental misunderstanding, a blindness to the deeper currents Dad had always navigated. She would never grasp the concept of Project Phoenix, because it wasn't about control, it was about creation, about building something meaningful for the unseen future. She saw a stolen empire. I saw a sacred trust. I looked at a half-finished canvas on my easel, a swirling abstract of greens and blues, reminiscent of flowing water and clean energy. It was a reflection of the very principles Sterling Innovations embodied. My art, once a solitary pursuit, suddenly felt profoundly intertwined with this unexpected destiny. The lines between my passions and my responsibilities blurred, converging into a single, cohesive purpose. My mother's quiet strength, her belief in following one's inner truth, suddenly felt like a guiding hand in this new, uncharted territory. The studio was quiet now, save for the faint hum of the city, a whisper of the life beyond its walls. It felt like a deep breath, an exhale before the plunge. The storm was indeed upon me, but I was no longer merely bracing for impact. I was rooted. My father's faith, my mother's wisdom, and my own long-held passions had converged, forming an unshakable core. The world would see a fight for money, but I knew, deep in my soul, it was a fight for a legacy, for a vision, for the quiet truth of who we truly were. The city lights twinkled outside, a million distant dreams, some burning brightly, others fading into the night. My father's secret company, Project Phoenix, was a beacon among them, poised for its fiery ascent. I felt the weight of it, the immense responsibility, but also the exhilarating lightness of purpose. And in that profound silence, I heard not just the city's hum, but the quiet, undeniable whisper of my own unfolding destiny.